Okay, now today we are going to start our new topic, that is software design. As we all know that software design is the third level of our SDLC model. Okay, first was feasibility study, second was requirement analysis and specification, and now the third one, that is our designing phase. Now what we know about designing phase, first of all the main thing is that up to now what we were doing was in the problem domain. That is, when the customer is giving you some problem, that is, he is giving you his requirements, the order of your software. At that time it was known as what? The problem domain. That is our feasibility study. At that time you are not going through the solution, you are not going towards the solution. Okay, that was the problem which was given to you as a software, in the form of a software. You have to make this software. You have the feasibility study, that I am going to make this software, how much feasible my software is going to be. So this is what is your problem is. Okay, now in the next phase, okay, you were also seeing that whether it was economically and technically feasible or not. That is also your problem statement. Now in requirement analysis and specification, what was happening? There also we were searching for what were our requirements to make the system a feasible one. Now the requirements are there, we were gathering the requirements, we were doing the analysis of the requirement, then we were having some specification, we were making the SRS documents. Okay, so these all things were what was in the problem domain. Now from this stage, that is our designing stage, what we are going to do, that is, it is coming to the solution domain. What that means? That is, if we were dealing with the problem till now we are making the solution for our problem. How we are going to make our software, the designing of our software. We have the requirement, we know how to make our system feasible. Now we have to see that how we are going to make our system, that is designing, coding, testing, etc, etc. So these things are going to be in your solution domain. Then now what is this? What is designing? Software designing. Designing is what we are having the requirements in the requirement specification, SRS document, in the form of SRS document, we have seen in our previous classes. Now what we are going to do, we are transforming those requirements into some other form. What form? By which we are going to make our coding. Okay, we are going to implement that thing. The output of this particular phase will be your whatever input that will be in your coding phase. Okay, that will be the input for your coding phase. In the designing phase, you are going to make the whole design of what we are going to do, how we are going to implement our software, how we are going to implement that one. So output of this particular phase, software design, we will see today what is happening inside that one. So output of this phase is going to be the input for your coding phase. How you are going to code your system, or you are going to make the whole system, that is what we do in the coding phase. What is this phase? We are going to make the whole architecture, whole design of how we are going to make our system. That will help you in the coding phase. So this transformation of our requirements, which was raw, we were only having the requirements from our customer. We were transforming these all requirements in a particular specific form, which will be helpful in the next phase, that is our coding phase. That thing we are going to, that transformation we are going to do in this designing phase. Done. Now one more thing, that is, here we will have some typical specific things, that is modularization and some concurrency type things, that we'll see now in next phase. Okay, now first thing, this whole designing phase is broken into mainly three parts, three levels or three parts. Okay, first one is architectural design. The first part of our designing phase is the architectural designing phase. After that we will go for the high level designing. Then the third one will be our detailed designing. As we all know, when we are going to do any kind of designing, so step by step, okay, step by step we do the designing, so that after the last phase we are going to get the output, which will be our input for the coding phase. Then, so what is going to be in this every particular phases? We are going to do some different kinds of things. So first of all, our architectural designing phase. What is there? It is the highest abstract version of our designing phase. means it's the highest version. Here whatever things we are going to do, we are basically changing our SRS document in a particular designing format. Okay, so that is our software design. So let's see next what is there. Identify software as system with many components interacting with each other. Here in the first thing what we are having the requirement for the whole system. This is the thing which we were done in our SRS document. We have the SRS document there. What our whole system is going to do, that is given in the SRS document. So we are working with the whole system, our whole software. Okay. Now what is happening here? Here we are seeing the software as some components, group of some components. Okay. These components, what they are doing their basic specific work. Okay. Here it identifies the software as the system with many components interacting with each other and working individually. They are working individually. Suppose someone is, if in our library management system we have seen previously, what is happening? Some components were working for the books. That is it was taking the function. We have seen there also the input it was taking. Some was giving the output. So these different components were working in a independent manner. They were doing their work separately. But what was happening? They were interacting with each other also, so that the output of one phase was going for the input of another phase. Okay, so this kind of interaction is done in a particular whole system. So at this level, we will see the whole system as some components interacting with each other. That is our architectural designing phase. Here we do with these all things. Now, designers get here the idea of proposed solution domain. As I have already told you, this is what is going to be your solution domain. From here onwards, you will get now you know what? This is my problem. I am going to deal with this problem. But from here onwards, you are getting the solution. How this is my problem, then how I am going to deal with this problem. Okay, so what the development team gets here? The development team basically gets here the whole proper thing what is going to be in our solution domain. We have the problem, now we will having the solution. That is the transformation which I have told you. This is what is called a transformation here. The transformation of the whole thing, that is the requirement analysis SRS document. Look what happens in the SRS document. What we were doing in the SRS document, it was what? It was specifically what our requirements were. Only the requirements. But for implementation phase, that is the implementation and coding phase, what is happening there? Some more specific requirements are going to be there. Okay, some more specific requirements you need here for this particular coding phase or your implementation phase. At that time, more specific requirements have to be there. Since at this time you are only having the requirements of the customer, but how you are going to deal with those requirements, how you are going to implement those requirements, that is your implementation in your software. For that, you have to add some coding. That is the coding phase. So these all things you need. What you need now, you need some more specification, some more requirements you need now. The requirement analysis given by your customers, okay. Now what? You need some more requirements, like which particular language you are going to use, which particular environment you are going to use, the particular testing environment, everything, testing cases, different things you are going to. Now you have some more specific requirements you are going to add it to your software, particular SDLC model. Now in this designing phase, so first of all, it's the highest abstraction level. Since it's the transformation part, so it's the highest abstraction level of this particular designing phase. Second one, what? It identifies that whole system is having many components. And those components, what they are doing? They are interacting with each other and doing their work individually. Okay. So after doing their work, they are giving the output to the other particular component. And again, that component is again working. So this thing is going on in this first phase. And third one, the designers are getting what? A proposed solution domain. Now, what solution? I have the problem. What kind of solution I am going to get? That particular thing, the idea is going to be achieved in the first level. Then So this is what is our architectural level of designing. Okay. Now second level. What is the second level? Next level, that is our high level. High level designing. What happens in this high level? Here we were seeing the whole system as a collection of components or a system with many components. Now what we are seeing here, it breaks. See, it breaks that particular thing. Okay, that here what was the many components? It was but a system with many components, single entity with many components. It is breaking that one, single entity, multiple component. It is breaking that thought now. It is breaking that one. That single entity with many components is now broken. Broken into what? Broken into what? Into less abstract view of subsystems and modules and depicts their interaction. Now what is happening there? There was a single entity. Suppose here what was happening? I was having a single entity. In this particular phase, I was having a single entity, and in this single entity, what was there? There were particular components. These are components 1, 2, 3, 4. These are particular components which are working here inside this particular system. Now what? We are breaking this whole thing. Now we are working with what? Now there is not a single system. You are not having a single system now. Now we are breaking this thing into particular different modules. These are my subsystems. Suppose now I'm breaking it into subsystems. This is my first subsystem. This is my second subsystem. This is my third subsystem. And what more? More thing is that these are my modules. These particular things are my modules. Understood? What is that one? Here the whole thing is I'm working with the whole system. Whole system with some components. Now in the next level, I am going to break that thing. Single entity, many components. Break that one. Breaking in what? Breaking into some subsystems now. As we have done in integration testing, we were breaking the whole system. First of all, we were doing unit testing, small modules. Then in integration testing, we were merging those modules into some small components. And then after that, we were merging whole thing into a system testing. Now here the thing is going in another direction. That is the here we are first of all we are working with the whole system. Okay. Now we are breaking it into module, small components, subsystem with modules, small modules. And what? Here also you have to see many things. We will study in your next class cohesion coupling. Here also you have to see many things. That is, these particular modules, they are interacting with each other. Then these particular modules, they are interacting with each other. They have some force. They have some interaction between. There's some communication between each other. Their particular input, their output. Again, that is going to another subsystem. Again, what? These subsystems are also having some interaction with each other. So, what is going here? The interaction between the subsystems and the interaction between these modules. This whole thing is going to be in your next level. Then in testing we were doing what we were doing? We were doing the with the first of all the modules, then components and subsystems, then what? The whole system. Here in reverse direction. That is whole system. We are first of all we are working with the whole system, breaking it into subsystems. Then in subsystems also we are working with their small modules. So here it is less abstract than the previous one. Previous one was the highest abstract level. Now here it is the less abstract level than that one. But it is breaking the whole thing. Single entity, multiple components. Breaking it into subsystems. Then again breaking it into different modules. What these modules do? This is what is called modularization. That is small modules. They are working individually. They have their task. They are doing their task individually, separately. They have been compiled. They have been executing. Everything is done separately. Again, they have some security system also for their own modules. But what is the main thing here? Their interaction, their communication with each other. Again, the communication between these subsystems are also there. So to deal with those particular things, we are having this high level design. Clear? Second thing, what? Implementation in modular form. we are implementing the whole system into some modular form. Modular form means breaking into modules, breaking into subsystems and then into modules. This is what is called modular form. So your system now, your whole system is now broken into small modules, and this implementation of these modules in your software, how they are working, how they are functioning of these specific modules, their specific function. So these things are going to be in the modular form. So this is what implementation is, modular form. Now third one is modular structure of subsystems and their interaction with each other. This is my modular structure, breaking of whole system into some subsystem and my modules. Now these modules, when they are interacting with each other, this thing is seen here. That is their relation and interaction. Modular structure of your subsystem. Whole system is broken into systems. Then in that system, not only two modules, in the particular system you are having so many modules. This is my subsystem number 1. Suppose this particular subsystem, these are having so many modules. So these modules are having interaction with each other. So this interaction or this communication with each other, that whole thing, whole process is being done in this high level design. Then, so mainly what thing is happening? From the whole system we are breaking it into small pieces. Why? So that we can easily work with those things. When you are working with the whole system, errors may be there. Maybe you can have different failures, different faults can be there, and security problem can be there. Your budget is there, your time complexity is there. When you are working with the whole system, maybe if some error comes, then what you have to deal with it with the whole system. Again, you have to create that one in the designing phase. As we have seen in the prototyping model or in the evolutionary model, that we are designing that at that time we were making the prototypes. So that thing is happening here only. Those particular things, that is the making of the prototype, designing of the prototype, then again making the particular evolutionary model. In rat model we have seen we are making that particular design, again we are giving that to the customer is giving you that yes, okay, then again we are doing something. So that thing is going to be here in your designing phase. So you can see that when we are dealing with the whole system, then of course there can be a error, there can be a failure. There maybe your customer is not, he's not giving his consent, that is okay. So at that time we have again to deal with the whole system. So what we do here, we break the whole system into small modules, so that if any error comes or any failure comes, that will be coming to your particular module, you can easily correct that one. And if the modular system is okay, then any error comes, then it is with your subsystem, then you can correct that one also very easily, so that your whole system is not affected. You can easily correct your modules, specific modules, so that whole system is not affected by that one. Then, so this thing is done in our high level design. Now next level, that is our detailed level design. Third level, that is our highest level. What is the implementation part of system and subsystems of previous stages? Now we have seen here, we have broken the system. Now here we are implementing those systems and subsystems. Systems were, here we are working with system, here we are working with subsystem. So implementation of those system and subsystems. Now you have what here? You have done here with your system. Then you have broken it into subsystem and modules. That is also done. Now here you are implementing the whole part, that is with this and this. These parts you are implementing in your software. That detailed designing. Now you have done the detailing. Now the whole detailing is being implemented in your main software, in that detailed design phase. Some software you are taking, breaking it, subsystems, modules, all work done. Now you are implementing those things in your software. Detailed design. Then secondly, more details towards modules and their implementation. You have the modules now. There what we were doing, we were just breaking the systems into subsystems and modules, and we were working with their interaction with each other. Here what we will do, we will add some more interaction, we will see more communication. What is that? That is cohesion and coupling. Cohesion and coupling, what is that, we will see in next class in details. But mainly what is that? In cohesion, what we see, if the cohesion is high, then your system is good, better one. What is cohesion? Cohesion is the interaction between different modules. Okay, when inside a module, inside a particular module, there are some components. Again, inside the modules, there are some components are there. So interaction between those particular components inside the module, okay, the interdependability between those particular components, that is cohesion inside a module. And what is coupling? Coupling is what? When two particular modules is there, the interdependability between those two particular modules is known as coupling. Then again repeat, what is that one? The interaction. See, I will show you here. Then you will be able to understand that one. Here, this is my system S1, and I am having here some subsystems. Suppose these three subsystems are there. That is SS1, SS2 and SS3. These are my subsystems. And now in those subsystems, now, so suppose here we have seen this the whole system, okay, S1. Now here we are having different subsystems, SS1, SS2, SS3. Now here suppose we are taking this particular subsystem SS1. What we are seeing here in this SS1, we are having three modules, M1, M2 and M3. Then here in M1, M2, M3, these are my modules. The interaction between these things, first we are working with this in the architectural model, architectural design. Now in next what we are doing here, we are dealing with the subsystem, that is in a high level designing. What we were doing, we were interacting, we were seeing the interaction between these and the interaction among these. This thing was happening in the high level designing. Then, and in the third phase, what is happening here? More details, that is in between these modules, they are having some interaction. Then this is known as coupling. This interaction between modules, and in these particular modules also some components are there. Interaction between these things are known as cohesion. This is what is more details about the modules, that is their interaction, more details about the interaction between your modules. This is the thing what is happening here in the highest level, that is the detailed level. Here more details towards module and their implementation. This is more details, that is the coupling and cohesion. Then also there are many types of coupling and cohesion. Many types. There are 7 types of coupling, cohesion, and 5 types of coupling that we will see in another class. But this is the main thing what is happening here. First level, whole system. Why I am repeating that one? Because every time whenever it comes, it's a topic of confusion. So that's why I am clearing your confusion, that in the first level what is happening, the whole system, we are working with the whole system. That is my system with some components. In second level, the interaction between this, I am breaking this whole system and these components into subsystems. And now I am working with these subsystems and the modules in between those subsystems. I am working with that one. Third level, what? Again, it is more complicated. That is, here, these two, we are taking all those things here, and these modules, more implementation of more interaction between these modules. That is the cohesion and coupling form. Interaction between the particular modules, that is your coupling, and what is the interaction between the components in between in that particular, suppose the particular module, in between those components, what is the interdependability, that is your cohesion. Okay, so these things are seen here. Now, logical structure of a module. What is my basic logical structure of my module? I am taking a module, then the whole logical structure of my module, how I am working in that module, what work has been done in that module, those things are basically seen here. Now we are working in the module phase. As you can see here, now we are working with the module phase. First system phase, subsystem phase, now my module phase. Means basic, just little basic. Modules are what? They are the basic system, basic thing of your whole system, whole software. So now we are working with that basic thing. Means the lowest level of your software. And interfaces of module communication, as I've already told you, coupling and cohesion. This is what are known as modular communication. So interaction between those modules, this communication whole thing, this is coming in this phase, that is my details phase. Clear? So we are just breaking the system. From level to level, we are breaking the system and going to the basic level of your software. That is your modular structure. Okay. Now what is modularization? Modularization, that is your next topic in between in this software. As you have already seen, nothing is there special in this. We have already seen what is cohesion, coupling, everything is there in your modularization. But we will see here what are the advantages, why we are breaking the whole system in modules. Okay, so first of all, the main thing is modularization. This is my new topic. Means breaking my system into module. That is breaking my whole system into some discrete modules. Okay, into some multiple and discrete interdependable module. They are independent. Okay, these are independent. They are working independently, individually. This module, suppose it is working something, this is working something, but they have some interaction. They are independent in their task. They are having independent task. Okay, independent task. But what is the main thing? Interaction. They are having some interaction. They are doing independent task. They are being executed. They are being compiled. Everything is done individually, separately. For every module. If I am working with this particular module M1, then I will compile this individually. I will execute this individually. Again for M2, same thing. But this interaction is there. Its output, maybe it is the input of this. So they are having some specific particular interaction is there. Their work. So what is this? This is mainly the divide and conquer rule is used here. I am dividing the whole system and I am conquering this particular subsystems, these modules. I am working with those modules. So these things is what is known as modularization. Okay, modules are being worked with in this particular aspect. In this aspect only you will see that coupling and cohesion. Now why we are breaking this in modules? What will happen? So let's see what are the advantages of this. Okay, the advantages of this modularization. Okay, first one is smaller components are better when you are working with smaller components or smaller parts of your system. So what will happen? When you are working with smaller components, they are easy to maintain. Okay, now easier to maintain how? If you are taking this particular small components, then you can easily execute them. If you are having any error, any kind of failure, you just correct that one particular module. You can easily maintain this thing. In case of maintenance also, when you are going to work with maintenance also, at that time also you will see that these basic designing, what you have done now in this designing phase, you can easily deal with those particular modules. In case specifically take that module, just change that one and you can implement that thing in your whole system. So like this, what will happen? The whole system is not affected at once. If some error comes, if some failure is there, then whole system is never affected at once when you are doing this, working with this modularization. Okay, so this thing is what? Smaller components and smaller parts. So easier to maintain, easier to work as well as and maintain. This is what is happening in your modularization. Again, you can break these things. You can divide particular modules, okay, for specific function. Specific function. This function aspect is there. When you are having these modules, you can easily divide those modules. Suppose these modules, they are working with some particular function. In my library management system, I have seen that one. When I was working with my input function and function phase, that was what I was giving the name of some author's book. So it was taking my input. That was a particular module. Second module, what it was doing, it was just transforming that one. Transforming the whole system, whatever I have told it, that is, I am giving the name of an author. It was what it was doing. It was the searching that name of that author, the particular book, the rack number, or where the book is, that whole thing. And that third module, what it was doing, it was giving me the number of that particular rack. It was generating the bill, or again those things, and giving me the details of my book so that I can find that one. So these are my different modules which are working independently. So this functional aspect you can easily work when you are using this modularization. Every particular module is functioning with a particular function. So these things is what is happening in this modularization. Then third things, component with higher cohesion, and I has already told you that cohesion and coupling. Okay, so these things, when they are better, cohesion will be better. If what is happening here, cohesion can be better when we have high cohesion, okay, and low coupling. So this kind of thing is better one. This kind of software is better. High cohesion, why? High cohesion because what? When you are having the module and the components there, they are highly connected with each other. So you can reuse that one. We have seen in RAD model, what we were doing, we were reusing those things. We were reusing particular modules, we were reusing the codes so that time can be saved. So in that kind of model, if cohesion is high, then you can easily reuse that one. Done? Again, next thing is what? Concurrency can be easily done. Concurrency. What is concurrency? We will see now. Now, concurrency can be easily achieved. Okay. Concurrency means when two subsystems, they are working parallelly in a particular instant of time. That can be achieved here very easily. And fifth one is our security purpose. That is, for any particular module, you can easily give the security. The security aspect can be dealt very easily in this module specific system. Okay, when you are breaking those things, you are having system particular security for your specific module. If this system is particular security, if by anything is challenged, then only that particular module is affected, not the whole system. So you can easily deal with that one. That is why for these whole things, these particular 5 advantages, we use this modularization, or we are breaking the whole system into different modules. It is very easy now, because if you are working with the whole system, you have to deal with the whole system. Again, if with some error, you have to work again you have to start the work as a fresh one. But when you are working in the module system, you can easily change the module. It is saving your time, saving your budget, everything. Okay, time and budget is also saved. That is also your advantage. Now, one thing which we have heard now, that is concurrency. Now we will see that one. Okay, so this is what is there in our module specific designing. Now concurrency, what is happening in this concurrency? We have seen there, concurrency can be easily achieved. I will give you example also. Concurrency. What is this concurrency? When my two subsystems, suppose this is my subsystem 1 and this is my subsystem 2, if these two are working parallelly, means these are working together side by side in a particular specific instant of time, in a particular specific instant time, okay, particular time. Suppose in this instant of time they are working together parallelly. This is also working, this is also working in my software system. Let's take the example. Suppose when you are working with a word processor, okay, simple word processor, what happens there? You can see whenever you are searching for, you are writing any word, you can see there, if you are writing any incorrect spelling, some spelling checker is there, right? Some spelling checker is there. that is your spelling checker processor. So what happens there? You are working with this in this word processor, but whenever you are writing a incorrect spelling, okay, certainly your spelling checker is showing you. So what is happening? How it is showing me that one? I am not again working with it. So this is what is happening in a word processor and spelling check system. Okay, so this thing, the whole thing which is going to be in your concurrency thing. The whole aspect of this thing are in your software designing phase. Now next day what we are going to do, we are going to see what is cohesion and coupling and the details of the different types of cohesion and coupling. Okay, till then, if you have any comments, if you have any queries, you write to the comment section, and please like and subscribe my channel so that I can give you more thing about different topics of technical education. Thank you. Bye. Okay, so in today's class we are going to discuss about cohesion and coupling, as I have told you previously in our previous class. Now what is cohesion and coupling? Let us do a small review of what was cohesion and coupling. So first of all, what was cohesion? Cohesion was when we are having a particular program. Okay, so in that program we are having some modules. As I have already told you about system, subsystem and modules in between those subsystems. Now what is that? This is my module, that is my module 1, and this is my module 2, M2. Okay, now what is this? What is cohesion? In case of cohesion, what we know is the interdependability or the intercommunication, the interrelation, whatever you want to say, that is how these two are dependent. Okay, this is called coupling, and these have some elements. This particular module have some elements in between them. This also, here also. Okay, so these modules or these elements, they are also having some interconnection between them. That is the interdependability of these elements in a particular module, that is known as cohesion. Then, and the interdependability between these two particular modules, okay, that is known as coupling. Clear? What is cohesion? Cohesion is the interdependability between elements of a particular module, and coupling is the interdependability between two particular modules. Okay, this is the difference between cohesion and coupling. Now, if for a particular program, what should be the cohesion and what should be the coupling? Okay, the cohesion should be always high. Higher the cohesion, your program will be better, and the coupling should be low. Okay, that is for a program design, we see that the cohesion should be higher and the coupling should be lower. This is the main logic between a cohesion and coupling. Now, when we are discussing about cohesion, that is how the particular elements in a particular module, how they are interdependent on each other, how they are communicating with each other. So for that, we have 7 kinds of cohesion. Okay, 7 kinds of cohesion are there, by which we can see how the different elements are, how they are interlinked with each other in a particular module. Then, so let's first start with coincidental cohesion. What is coincidental cohesion? That is unplanned and random. Since this kind of cohesion is totally unplanned, it is unaccepted. As we know, when we are going on with some unplanned feature, that is, it is unaccepted, because it generally, what it happens, it just creates some kinds of problems, or it may create some kinds of unstructured thing. Okay, that's why, since this is random, unplanned and random, we are just taking some random interconnection between these particular elements of the module, as well as breaking the program into several modules. There is no particular number in which we are going to break the elements of our module. So this is as it is unplanned as well as it is random. So there may be many number of particular elements inside a module. So obviously it is unaccepted. It creates some chaos in the with the programmers. So this kind of cohesion is generally unaccepted in our program design. So this is what is our coincidental cohesion. This is the first kind of cohesion in our cohesion types. Okay. Now second type of cohesion, that is our logical cohesion. What is logical cohesion? When logically categorized elements are put together in a particular module. Suppose this is our module. Okay. This is our M1. This is module. So when in a particular M1 module, all the elements which are there, suppose this is E1, E2, E3, these should be logically connected. These should be logically same here. Okay, when logically categorized elements, when we are categorizing the elements logically, they should be same. So in that case, they are put together in a module. Okay, so this kind of cohesion is known as logical cohesion. Then, so this is our second kind of cohesion, that is logical cohesion. Now, what is our third kind of cohesion? Third kind of cohesion is, this is temporal cohesion. What is temporal cohesion? When elements of a module are organized in such a way that they are processed at a similar point of time. Okay, what that means? Suppose this is our module M1 and this is our elements E1, E2, E3, E4, etc., etc. Okay, so this here what happens, elements processed at a similar point of time. Suppose when there are many elements in your module, particular module, maybe those elements, they are not processed in the same time. Okay, different elements are grouped together, and those elements maybe they are processed at a similar time or maybe at another time. So those elements which are processed at the same point of time, those elements are grouped here and they are known as temporal cohesion. The interdependability between those elements which are processed at the same time, that is called temporal cohesion. That means at the same instant of time. They are all executed at the same instant of time. They are grouped together. That grouping or that the interconnection between those kind of particular elements in a particular module, that is our temporal cohesion. Then fourth one is our procedural cohesion. What is procedural cohesion? Here elements grouped together to perform a similar task. That was what in temporal cohesion? They were executed at a similar point of time. Now we are talking about what? Again we are having a module M1 and this particular E1, E2, E3, E4. Here what we will see? Those elements that are grouped together which are performing the similar task. Suppose here if E1, E2 and E4, they are performing some task and they are performing another task. So the interdependability between these two and these two, they are grouped together. They are grouped individually, they are grouped individually. So the interdependability between those particular elements in a module which are doing the similar kind of task. Okay, same task, they are performing the same task. So those kind of elements, they are grouped together in a module. Different elements are there. They are working at different time. They are working they are doing different tasks. Okay, so first one in temporal what? We were seeing about the same time, same point of time. Now we are seeing what? Same kind of task, doing same kind of task. So those particular interdependability between those elements in a module which are performing similar kind of task, that is known as procedural cohesion. Okay, that is our fourth kind of cohesion. Then now our fifth kind of cohesion. What is that? Communicational cohesion. Now what is communicational cohesion? Elements executed sequentially work on same data or info. Now what happens here? Okay, one more thing, that is in procedural cohesion. Here we have to see one thing. This kind of particular we have to see what they have to be done in sequential order. They are in structured type. Okay, these elements which are grouped is perform a similar task, that is we have to see they should be in a sequential order. Okay, here also we have to see that elements executed sequentially work on same data or info. Maybe their work are different, as we have seen there in temporal, same instant of time, in procedural, same work, same function. Now what? Now we have to see what? That maybe their function are different, but they are working on the same data or information. Then maybe their work are different. Suppose this E1, E2, they are inside a module M1. Okay, E3, E4. Maybe these two are working on, they are doing another task, and they are doing T1, they are doing T2. Different tasks. But what thing we have to see here? Not the task. What task they are performing? Same task that was in our procedural cohesion. Now what we have to see? Maybe their tasks are different, but we have to see they are working on the same data set, that is D1. Clear? We have to see what? We have to see that if they are working, they are doing the same task, then that is our procedural cohesion. But here maybe the tasks are different. Maybe they are doing different tasks, but they are working on the same data. Someone is inserting the data, someone is deleting the data, but working on the same type of data. That is our communicational cohesion. Here what? First, same time, temporal, same task, now same data. But other features can be different. When you are talking about the same time, it is working on same time. At the same time the execution is going on. But maybe the work is different, maybe the data set is different, that can be there. Same thing when it is happening here, same work is done, maybe the time may be different, execution time or the data set may be different. When the same data set they are working on, time or the other features can be different. But you have to see the same data set, they are working on the same data set. So this is our fifth kind of cohesion. Then now our sixth kind of cohesion, that is our sequential cohesion. Now what is sequential cohesion? This is the most important type of cohesion. That is, here suppose in our module M1, here what is happening? Here we have to see the sequential or the sequence of the elements of our cohesion. What is the sequence? Suppose this is my E1, this is the element, this is E2 and so on En. Now what we have to see here, output of one element should be input to the another element here. Now what? This is my E1, this is having some input and some output. Now I have to see that these output should be input of E2. E1's output should be input of E2. Then again here this output O2 should be input of, here if E3 is there, I3. So here we have to see the sequence of our input output. The input of one element, if we are working on two elements, we have to see the input of one element should be the output of another element. So it will be in a sequential logic. Then this kind of cohesion is known as sequential cohesion. It is easy. That sequential cohesion means the input of this particular element should be the output of another element. So this is what is called our sequential cohesion. Then here no instant of time or logic or data or anything, we are not describing about that one. Here only what thing we are seeing, the input of one element should be the output of next element. This sequence should be maintained. Those kind of elements which are maintaining this kind of sequence in your particular module, those particular elements, the interdependability between those particular elements which are performing in this sequential logic, that is they are grouped in our this sequential cohesion. Then our seventh one, all elements contribute single well-defined function. Here what we have to see, when we are defining a particular function, as we have seen there all the high level function f1, suppose it is there, e1, e2, e3, e4, if some other elements are there. So here what we have to see, this is the highest degree of cohesion. Okay, this is highly accepted also. So these elements in a module, that is functional cohesion should be grouped in such a way that they are contribute to a single well-defined function. Suppose this is your single well-defined function. So these elements, all of these elements should contribute to this particular function F1. As we have seen in our library management system, F1 was a high-level function. We were searching the book for about our author's name. Then it was defining how it was giving us the rack number and other things. The processing was done. So a single defined function is there. All the elements of this particular module should contribute to that single well-defined function. If they are contributing, they should be grouped together and they are given in a particular group, that is functional cohesion. This is the highest level of our cohesion. This functional cohesion is the highest level of our cohesion. Why? Since this is working on a single function. Processing is done, we have seen there also when the processing was done, that was done on a basis of a high level function. Also here that is going on. That is your high level, your all are contributing to a single well defined function. When they are talking about a function, obviously it is a structured manner. It is well planned, it's not unplanned. Obviously this is accepted. This is expected as well as this is accepted. Okay. This is the accepted one. That is our high level. This is the highest level. Functional cohesion is the highest level of cohesion. Done. And this was the lowest level of cohesion. That is our coincidental cohesion. And since it was unplanned, it is not accepted. Okay. This kind of cohesion is not accepted since it was unplanned. So what we see from coincidental to functional, what we are seeing, this is going on increasing level. This is the highest level, the 7th one. And what? This was unplanned, and going through this we are seeing the highest level, that is a planned and structured cohesion. Here all the elements, they are dependent on each other and they are highly attached with each other. Okay. So as we have already told, highest cohesion, that is high the cohesion, best is your program. So functional cohesion is the highly accepted one. Done. Now we will be talking about our coupling. Done. What is coupling? Cohesion was the interdependability between the elements of a particular module. Now we will see how the interdependability between the different modules are described. Okay. So let's see now what is happening in a coupling. So first coupling are also of 5 types. Okay, but mainly there is no such coupling which is highly accepted or another thing. So coupling are mainly of 5 types, but not any coupling means ideally they are not accepted. No coupling is ideally best. No coupling is there. Every coupling can be used and they are equally standard. That is not ideally, that we have seen in cohesion that functional cohesion is the ideal one, or it is the best accepted one. But in coupling, no such case is there. Okay. Now let's see first coupling, that is our content coupling. Done. Here what? Directly access or modify content of another module. That is when in a module they are directly accept or maybe they can refer to content of another module. Suppose this is my module 1 and this is my module 2. Done. Then what we will see, how the dependability will be accessed or seen or checked. First thing is they can directly access, these can directly access this can directly access this, the data of each other. Then second, what? They can modify, they can directly access. First of all, they can directly access each other. Okay. Second, they can directly modify, or they can modify each other. Okay. Suppose some data is there D1, some data is there D2. So these can easily modify the data of module 1 and these can easily modify the data of module 2. Then third one is they can refer to each other's data. They can refer to each other. So these kind of thing, mainly what we are seeing here, what they are doing, what they are modifying, what they are referring to. Mainly they are referring, they are modifying, or they are directly accessing what? The content of each other. What they are accessing? They are accessing the data, that is the content which is in between the modules. That is the thing. So here what we are seeing, the content in this particular, that is C1, here C2, this is the content of our module 1 and 2. So what is happening there, how we are accessing or how we are checking the interdependability, that is they can directly access each other's content. M1 can access C2, that is content of M2, okay, and this is the content of M1. So what is happening there, M1 can access the content of M2, can modify the content of M2, okay, and can refer to the content of M2 in case of reference. And M2 can also, it can directly access the content of M1, that is our C1, modify, it can also modify the content of our M1 and refer to the content of M1. So when we are talking about the content of M1 and M2, and on the basis of the modification, reference or access of these particular contents, this kind of coupling or this kind of interrelation or interdependability is known as content coupling. This is the first kind of coupling of our coupling types. Then clear? Now let's see the next kind of coupling which comes to our coupling types. Okay. Next is common coupling. Common coupling. Now what is common coupling? Read, write, access to some global data. Here what is happening? Here multiple modules can, what they can do, suppose multiple modules are there, M1, M2, M3, Mn, whatever. So what we have to see, suppose here is a common data, global data. This is my global data. Suppose D1. So what we have to see, how we will check the interdependability between each other. We have to see they can read, write, access some global data. A common data should be there, which they can easily read. First of all, they can read, they can write, as well as they can access this data, this global data. That is my common data. I have a data and that data can be accessed, can be read, can be write or written by these all modules. So those modules which are mainly accessing, writing, reading, whatever on a basic data, on a particular global data, that data, that common feature, that is known as our common coupling. Clear? Common data is there which has been accessed, which has been written or read by these all modules. These modules are grouped together. The interdependability between these are judged by this. This is known as this common coupling. Done? Now let's see the third kind of coupling, that is our control coupling. Okay. Now what is control coupling? Third type, that is control coupling. What is control coupling? Here, when we are talking about two modules, this is my module 1, this is my module 2. One module decides or changes the execution of the other module. Here what is happening? One module that decides, what decides? Suppose this or this, either this or this, any module. Suppose M1, first thing what? It can decide the function of M2. Suppose M1 can decide the function of M2 or maybe vice versa. Okay. Then second what? It can change the execution change the execution of M2 or vice versa. Then, so here what we have to see, 2 points. Mainly when we are having two particular modules, what we have to see, first module, what is the name of the coupling? Control coupling. Control means it can take the control of the decisions of the other module. Clear? Very simple. It can take the decision, that is, it can decide the function here or here. Maybe M1 can decide the function of M2, or maybe M2 can decide the function of M1. Second one, change the execution. Whatever execution is being done to M1 or M2, each other they can change the execution of the other one. So this kind of coupling is known as our control coupling, where the control of one module is taken by the another module. So this kind of interdependability is known as controlled coupling. This kind of relation, this kind of coupling is called control coupling, where the control of one module is being taken by the other module. Clear? Now we will go to our fourth kind of coupling. Mainly in coupling you can easily see whatever the name of the coupling is. Mainly in 1, 2, 3 they are suggesting what is the function of the coupling. Now in fourth coupling, that is our stamp coupling. Okay, here what we are doing, share common data structure and but work on different thing. That is, they are sharing, suppose M1 and M2 are there, they are sharing the same data structure. Sharing same data structure. Okay, their data structure are same. Whatever data they are doing and their data structure is same. Okay, but what thing is different? Different is what? They are working on different parts of the data. Okay, different parts of data. Okay, what is going on? They are working on different parts of the data. Okay, data structure is this. The structure of both the modules are same, but what is happening there? They are working on the different parts. Maybe suppose I have a data, global data again. Here one data is there. So if one particular module, it is working on some part of the data, suppose here, but M2 will be working on the different part of the data. Someone is working on the execution, or someone is working on the input output of the particular. One is working on the processing, so one is working on the input and output functions of the particular data. So this kind of thing where the same thing, same data structure is being shared between each other. They are sharing the same data structure. The structure of both the modules are, data structure of the modules are same, but they are working, their task is different. They are working on the same data also, but their task is they are working on different parts of the particular data. Done. So this kind of thing is known as stamp coupling. Okay, here the name doesn't suggest the function of the particular coupling as the previous were going on, but stamp, mainly what is happening here, they are having the same data structure but working on the different parts of the particular data. Okay, now what? The fifth one, that is our data coupling. Okay, now what is happening in data coupling? That is our fifth one, data coupling. Here what happens, all the modules, they are interacting with each other on the basis of data. How? Here all the modules, suppose M1, M2, M3, these all modules, they are interacting with each other by passing parameters. Okay, which is called our data, for our data coupling. They are how they are working? They are passing different data structure, that is they are passing the data parameters to each other. By this, interconnection is being built between these different modules. So these kind of modules where they are working or whatever execution is done, that is done on the basis of passing parameters or passing data, different data. So this passing of data from one module to another module, this kind of interrelation or interaction between different modules is known as data coupling. Then where it is working on the data, working on passing parameters. So passing different data, that is called our data coupling. Clear? So here what we have discussed, that there are 7 kinds of cohesion and 5 kinds of coupling is there. But the main thing what is there, the cohesion should be always high and the coupling should be low. In cohesion what we have seen, that functional cohesion is the highly accepted one, but in coupling no such thing is there. No such ideal coupling is there. All the coupling they are working on the same basis, but not on working on different, but they are ideally equally ideal. Okay, nothing is better or this is worse, nothing is like that. But in cohesion that is there. That is, first one was coincidental cohesion, that was lowest cohesion, that was unplanned. But in our functional cohesion, that's the highest degree cohesion, highly accepted as well as expected. Clear? Now we will see about design verification. Okay, now we will see about design verification. This is what is happening in our designing phase. As we have seen what is previous classes also, what was in designing phase, different designs, levels of designing. Now we have to see that what is our design verification, how we can verify our design verification. So how you can verify anything, how you can verify that whether your program is correct or not, whether anything, to check anything, what we have to see, the output of the particular thing. Then here also we will verify this by the output of the design. Now after designing phase, what things are coming to you? What are the outputs of a designing phase? What are coming to you after doing this designing phase? What things are coming? First one is design documentation. Okay, what we have got after our requirement analysis and specification, SRS document. That was our document of the system requirements and specification. Correct? Now after designing phase, we will go to the coding phase. So in designing phase, what is our output? That is, first one is what we are getting after the designing phase. There we were getting SRS document, here we are getting the design documentation. Here it's the design documentation which is you are getting after you are doing your designing work is been done. Second one, what is that is pseudo codes. Some pseudo codes are there. Some codes you are getting. The whole codes, pseudo codes means some basic codes you are getting. These are not the main codes. Main codes you will get after you have done crossed your coding phase. Now you are getting some pseudo codes. That this kind of things we are going to use for our coding phase. Third one is the detailed logic. The detailed logic. Since after requirement analysis and verification, what we were getting? We were getting that what were our requirements, basic requirements which were there, which were given by the customer. Mainly a category of what kind of requirements were there, we were getting after requirement analysis and specification. But here what we are getting? Here we are getting a detailed logic now. Since you have designed your whole software, now you have the logic. There you have only the requirements gathered. Now you have the whole structure of the detailed design, whatever you are going to do in the, how you are going to code or how you are going to test your data. Correct? Now what is the fourth one? That is a process diagram. Processed diagram of, that is the mainly we will see in other classes. DFD, ERD is there. Entity relationship diagram, that data flow diagram. These things are going to be in the, so these are process diagrams are there. that how your relationship is going on, relationship between different entities, there are entities, relationship between them, their attributes, many things are there. We will discuss that afterwards. But these things are mainly some pictorial data. Also we have seen the decision tree, decision table, that is also you have seen in here. So these kind of things you are getting, what you are getting a diagrammatic form, in a diagrammatic form. So some process diagrams are with you which will be helping you. And the fifth one is our functional and non-functional requirements. Okay, functional and non-functional requirements. This was also what after your SRS document was done. But now, according to after when you have the detailed design, whatever the functional requirements or non-functional requirements was there, that will be updated. You are having a fresh details about your functional and non-functional requirements. Then since your designing phase will give you these 4 different kinds of things which will obviously change or update the requirements, that is your functional and non-functional requirements. So these are the things, these are the outputs which you are getting after you have completed your designing phase. Then, so what we have to see, you can easily verify your design. You can easily verify your design. See, after we have seen in our SDLC model also that some models were there where after designing, like in prototyping model, what we were doing, we were designing the prototype, we were giving that to the customer. The customer was giving his suggestions or feedback to you, whether he's accepting or maybe he wants some updation in your prototype. So that kind of thing, that is in your designing phase, how your designing is going to be verified. So your designing is basically going to verify how you are just giving the design, what we were giving to the customer in case of designing. So these are the things which you are going to give to your customer. Now it is cleared in this class. Okay, when you have completed your designing phase. So after completion, these things are what you are going to give to the customer, or you are going to verify by your development team that if my design is verified, my design is correct or not. These are the parameters or these are the output of your designing phase which will verify your design whether it is correct or not. Clear? Now, next phase, implementation depends upon the outputs mentioned above. Now, next phase is your implementation phase. Done. So, in implementation phase, these things, these parameters will be checked. These parameters, this output will show that whether your designing is verified, whether your designing is correct or not. That now, what things we have to, we know that these are the parameters. Now, what things we have to keep in our mind to verify our design. You have got your outputs of your designing phase. You are ready to verify that one. But what thing you have to keep in your mind before verifying your designing phase? How you will verify? You have the parameters done, but how you will verify? Let's see. Now, how we will verify our designing phase? So there are some points which you have to keep in your mind. Okay, first one, you have to verify the output. Verify the output before next phase. What is our next phase? Next phase is our implementation phase. That is implementation phase. So what we have to do before we go to the implementation phase, you have to verify these outputs for any kind of error or anything. You have to verify your output before going to the implementation phase. This is first point which you have to keep in your mind before doing the verification. Verification should be done before the implementation phase. Second thing, better to, that is, it is better to find any errors or any faults, etc., errors or faults before the testing phase. Okay, before the testing phase. Since in not, that is not after the testing phase. Here you have to see what, when you are going for the testing phase, you should have, you are going to have the implementation, that is your coding phase. So you have to see before the testing phase, you have to clarify all kinds of error or faults if present in your designing phase. That is also been checked before the testing phase. Okay, since testing phase, obviously if some error is there, fault is there, again you have to start from the previous phase. So in case of waterfall model, we have seen that classical waterfall model, that particular thing is not present. You cannot, you don't have any feedback loop. So here what you have to see, you have to see all, check all kinds of error or anything that you have to check before your testing phase. That clear? Now third one is that is structured verification approach should be done. That is structured verification approach. Okay, should be adopted. These should be adopted. That is, your verification should be any kind of mistakes or any things that can be previously whatever mistakes were there, that can be easily corrected or easily verified here. So some structured kind of verification should be done. Structured verification approach should be taken, so that any mistake or anything that should be easily cleared before your testing phase. That will be better for your programming team also. Development team is doing this one, as well as programming team will be doing your coding phase. So it will be better for both of them if some structured kind of thing is done. That's we have seen in SRS document. What was there? Some structured documentation was done. Here you have to verify that thing for the designing phase, should be verified in a structured manner also. Then third one is a good design should be reviewed. Okay, so that will be accurately. Review should be review of good design. Okay, should be done accurately and correctly. Okay, accurately and correctly. Your design should be seen accurately and correctly. For what? For what thing? Your design should be mainly seen accurately and correctly for quality. Okay, quality of your design. Quality of your design. That is, the quality of whatever your design is done, that should be correct, that should be good, so that your software designing is good. Then that should be perfectly, accurately and correctly checked. Okay, if some errors, mistakes comes after this phase, then what you have to do? You have to again start or do a refresh. Okay, refresh the start, you have to do that there. So here what we have to see, that correctly and accurately we should check for the mistakes, check for the errors, so that we can give a quality product to our customer. This designing will depend on this designing phase this will only show how you are going to make your particular designing. This is the particular software. Then you are going for the coding testing. There nobody is going to verify that one. Here it is the first step. Designing is the first step of your SDLC processes of the development. That is the solution domain. So here whatever thing you have to do here only. Done. So that your process, your software can be a good one, a better one. This is the main level where you have to see that thing. Okay. Then so these are the main things which are going to be in a whole designing phase of our SDLC model. Now in next class we will go for some other topics. Then if you have any queries related to the software designing, then please you can write to the comment section. I will give you the responses. Okay, and if you like my channel, please give some like and subscribe my channel. Thank you.